Today I want to talk to you about why ranked voting is so crucially important to American democracy and why we need to implement it as soon as possible. I'm been volunteering my time uh, to support ranked voting recently, and I think it's something really important that maybe some Americans have heard about here or there. I don't know if it's ever really been taken as a serious thing, and I want to talk about why it's so important. Now, America is a constitutional republic. What does that mean? It means that it is essentially you have to elect officials to make decisions for you. It's a huge country, 50 states. The territory of the US is insanely large compared to most modern countries. Of course, there are larger countries, but many of those larger countries are either non democratic or some other form of a government. But the U.S. is is a democratic country that fails to do democracy well. And it hasn't always been this case. The founding fathers, you know, did the utmost they could in the Constitution to have more than just two political parties vying for control. The problem with that is kind of what we see today. Our political landscape is divisive. It's um, promotes fear mongering on either side. You can see it on the Democrats. Anytime any Republican, anytime a Republican does anything, it's always going to be an attack on democracy and voting rights. That is true, especially recently. It's not wrong. Like the insurrection in the Capitol. You look at some of the voting laws being passed in certain places like Texas, and it's quite clear that many of the voter fraud, problems are actually kind of one-sided, where polling stations in primarily black areas or even Hispanic areas are often disabled, or they'll have a single polling station for a much too large population. There's laws against bringing water to help people stay in the lines. There's when they're so long, because there's just blocks and blocks and blocks of people in a line for hours because of a single polling station. Um, but you can see it on the other side as well, where anytime any Democrat does anything that's taken to, in this again, I'm trying to say this is happening on both sides. Anytime either side does anything, it is an attack on the fundamental American values. So you could have plenty of healthy minded Democrats or healthy minded Republicans, but as long as a couple few are doing this or doing that, then it's the whole party is rancid, type thing. And you have shows like CNN or Ben Shapiro or Tucker Carlson, or any number of these kind of shows that just pinpoint the how ludicrous certain members of each party are, and they dig into it, and they funnel fear into the masses, and they never let up. And it's like a soccer team. America is two soccer teams or two football teams without any dialogue happening. It's when you only have two political parties, there's only going to be competition against the other. You don't have to focus about how good your policies are, as long as you can bash the other's policies. And so what ends up happening is what we see today, where most Americans don't feel like the things they care about are being worked on or being achieved. Instead, it's more of a like us versus them. It's a tribal phenomenon where where your identity is wrapped up into your party, and it's insane. And it's important to understand that's not how it's always been. The modern American democratic experience is not a historical, is not supported by like most historical democratic history. It's a short-lived burst of insanity leading to civil war. You need a diverse group of parties, political parties, in order for things to happen. Um, you need 3 to 4 to 5 to more parties for any real meaningful stuff to happen, because when there's more than 2 parties, then okay, here's when the Democrats are fully in control of the Senate, only Democratic work gets done, because you don't need to have a Republican vote. The Republicans can focus, can try to slow down every vote that's possible, oppose every vote, and then when things go wrong, then it looks like the Democrats are stupid. And then the same vice versa. When the Republicans are in control, when Trump was appointing however many Supreme Court justices and filling up vacancies and stuff, then Democrats, without always having a good reason to oppose all the candidates. Now there were some pretty poor candidates, to be honest, but just fear mongering and pointing out that just slowing down the process. Whenever Democrat is in party, the Republicans need to make it as bad as possible, ruin the country, and when Republicans are in power, Democrats need to ruin the country, so that the next election it looks like, oh, well, Republicans didn't do a good job, we need to be in power. It leads to nothing. It's a horrible system, but sorry, I'm not talking extremely clearly right now. I don't have any notes or anything. This is kind of all off the dome. But okay, what is ranked voting? What is ranked voting? Now imagine that when you got a ballot in any it could be a local election, it could be a federal election, it could be for the presidency. Imagine that when you got that ballot, you could choose 3 candidates, right? And let's say you don't really care, you don't like Joe Biden and you don't like Trump. That's a common thing that a lot of Republicans and a lot of Democrats, I think, feel. I myself am more of a moderate leaning Democrat, but for the beginning of my life, I've been more of a Republican kind of leaning moderate, and so I've kind of gone from a little bit over here to a little bit over there from time to time, depending on the policies that either party is advocating for. But imagine for a second that you could vote for a third party. You could vote for a fourth party, maybe even, and you could put that as your first candidate, right? So you could put someone who let's say, instead of voting for grandpas, you could vote for someone who has an economics degree, has some background in whatever kind of work interests you. And so they're younger, they're fresher, maybe they were in the military, maybe they have, understand the economy a bit better than some of these grandpas who are just kind of political influencers by this point, people who have been in politics for so long that they're famous and so they're going to get the nomination. You could vote for them. And all of America could say, oh, wait, I won't waste my vote if I vote for a third party, because that's what happens right now. No third party candidate is going to become president of the United States. It's not going to happen because there's 2 main political parties. But if you could do ranked voting, then everyone could say, well, I don't really like Hillary Clinton, or I don't like Joe Biden, or I don't like Trump, or I don't like Steve Bannon, or whatever. And you could vote in a third party, and then let's say that they don't make it to the end of the primary. They're not nominated. Well, cool, because your second candidate was fucking Biden or Trump or whoever you want it to be. So your vote isn't wasted. You actually still get to support. You get to have a second best choice or a third best choice. Why wouldn't we want that? Why wouldn't we wish for a less divisive democracy, or a more stable republic. Our country is teetering towards civil war right now. And obviously, sorry, I'm doing a little bit of fear mongering myself, but you look anytime at the news and that seems what people are trying to tell you. I'm not saying we're going to have a civil war anytime soon. But a lot of people believe that the election was stolen, and a lot of people believe that Republicans are, a cult nowadays, and anti-democracy. And it doesn't have to be that way. We can have refreshing new candidates into the mix that don't support the crazy values of either party. You can have somewhere in the middle. If you have ranked voting. So ranked voting is important. It gives every voter more power with their ballots. Every single educated voter that really cares about making America a stronger, better democracy, a country that is going to be able to continue to lead into the future without stagnating. Ranked voting allows a more diverse party of interests to have a chance at the office instead of these two fucking hive mind bullshit parties that don't actually want to help you, that are pretty much have a game plan. The data is all there for them. I don't know what kind of when you're running for a certain position, what kind of things they get to tell you, but I'm sure a lot of it is like, well, just talk about this point and mention how bad the other party is at this and that, without ever needing to actually work on certain issues. And then, like I said, when you only have two parties, you just need to make that whenever the other party is in power, you need to drag your heels as much as possible. No work gets done. And so that in the next election, your party looks like the least worst choice. So let's stop playing around with least worst choices, and let's give Americans more power. Let's make America a stronger democracy. Let's, if we could have third parties, some of these issues that exist today wouldn't be a problem. So please support ranked voting. Tell your friends about how important ranked voting is. If you have extra free time, there are great non-for-profits or volunteer opportunities where you can try to make ranked voting become a ballot issue. Now, here's the main problem with that. Who's in power right now? Political elites, obviously. They're the ones making the decisions. Now, let's say you're a Democrat or a Republican and you're in power. What do you gain from giving more choices to voters? Not much, because that means that you're going to have more competition. So, the political elites don't really want to talk about ranked voting, even though it's kind of the perfect solution to a lot of the problems that we're facing right now. They don't really want to give you that option. They're kind of hoping you forget it exists. They're kind of hoping that you forget that some places already do it, and it works amazingly. So, really, this is going to have to be a pressure point from the American public. The American public is going to have to demand ranked voting for it to happen, because it's never going to happen from the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is never going to give you ranked voting, and the Republican Party is never going to give you ranked voting, because it hurts both of them. They'd have more competition. And it's funny because, the Democratic Party is all about freedom and choice and choosing your own values and this and that. Ranked voting seems like it would fit in the Democratic docket, but no, because it would take away power from them. And same thing for Republicans. Republicans are always talking about how free market values, the whole point of an open economy, of capitalism and everything, is that competition breeds ingenuity. It breeds innovation. So you'd think, oh, well, more choices, more competition. Wouldn't Republicans want that? No, it takes away power from them. They don't want to give you that. So you need to, think about maybe how the incentive structure is causing neither party to talk about this, and maybe take away some power from both parties a little bit. Maybe give more power to yourself. So I beg you, I'll have some links in the bottom of the video on places you can check out to learn more about ranked voting. Please tell your friends about it. It'll make our country much stronger. Thank you very much.